Hi, and welcome to another edition of Cheers to Careers. I am Steve Ridinghouse, the Career and Outreach Coordinator for the School of Journalism and Mass Communications. Today, we are fortunate to be joined by Nikki Wentling. She's joining us via Zoom all the way from Washington, D.C. She's a national reporter for Stars and Stripes. Welcome, Nikki.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I assume you're in Washington, D.C.
Yep, I'm in Washington, D.C. in my apartment.
So, how has the past 18 months been going as a national reporter for Stars and Stripes? Have you been working remotely pretty much?
Yeah, so we kind of suddenly in mid-March 2020, got told by our editors to clear out. So we started working from home then and haven't gone back since. At one point, they were talking about us going back this summer or this fall, but really with everything, it's gotten pushed now to probably into 2022. We're working from home, so it's been a lot different. Reporting in DC is a lot different in the pandemic age than it was before, for sure. So my day to day is completely changed in the last year and a half.
And talk a little bit about your career track. I think you spent some time with the Lawrence Journal World and I think Arkansas online with the
Yeah,
Stars and Stripes. I mean, how did the Stars and Stripes come about?
yeah, sure. So, yeah, my senior year of college at KU, obviously, I really went into my job search being super open-minded. Like, I knew I wanted a paid job after college. I knew I wanted to be a reporter. And I was, besides that, I was like open to going anywhere, just wanted to get started and, maybe move to a new place and, discover more about it. So I was really fortunate to get a job at the Arkansas Democrat Gazette in Little Rock, Arkansas, which was a great offer. I remember talking to Scott Renardi, my professor at the time, and he's like, wow, this is a great job. And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. So I hadn't been to Arkansas before I actually moved there, or I did the job interview there, and then I moved there. And that was my second time when I was moving there, was being in the state. So I moved there. I was 3 days a week as a general assignment reporter, and then 2 nights a week as a breaking news crime reporter. So that was a really interesting way to get to know a city, was covering its crime at night. But then, after a year on that job, I got a call from the Lawrence Journal World, who I had interned with for a full year, my senior year. And they had offered me a job after my senior year, but I decided got this offer from Arkansas. I wanted to go explore a new place and have a new job. But the Journal World called me. They had an opening for the City Hall reporting position, and they recruited me for that. And I took it because, the City Hall reporter was, a big position at the Lawrence newspaper. Has had a lot of responsibility. It got me off the night crime shift 2 nights a week, so I was really excited about that. And that was a really awesome job. I got to know Lawrence in a whole different way than going to college there. And Lawrence is a town where its community really is passionate about the town. So covering the city commission meetings and having, tons of people show up for public comment was really fun. But I did miss that military reporting. So I had a little bit of military reporting experience in Arkansas. That was 2014, which I don't know if you remember, that's when the big scandal happened at the Department of Veterans Affairs. So I got assigned to cover that at the local level in Little Rock. And so I really got to know a little bit more about veterans issues and military issues. And I didn't know much about that world before. So I had missed that, being a City Hall reporter in Lawrence. So I decided I was really into that and I wanted to do that full time. So that's when I started looking for jobs at Military Times, military.com, Stars and Stripes. And I landed one. So here I am.
I would assume, I guess like any beat, covering military and veterans issues, I would assume you have to be pretty passionate about it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so like I said, I didn't know anything about the military world before I started covering a little bit of it in Arkansas. So they have a big Air Force base, a big National Guard presence. So I covered that as well as the local VA. And I had no idea. Like my grandpa served in the Korean War, but other than that, I don't have a strong tie to the military community, or I didn't, which was really great as a reporter. We're naturally curious, and I felt like I was peeling back the layers of getting to know this world. So that's been a really fun aspect of it. It's all new to me, or it all was new to me. I guess I've been doing it about 5 years now, so it's not as new, but it is really a great topic to cover, because the military and military families account for such a small part of the US population. And our government makes a lot of promises to these people. So, like, being a reporter and being someone that, makes sure the government fulfills those promises and kind of holds them accountable for what they said that they would give our service members and veterans, is really, really fulfilling. It's a great gig as a reporter.
And Stars and Stripes, I mean, that's been around since the Civil War, right?
Yeah, you're right. So it was started by Illinois troops in Missouri during the so Union soldiers during the Civil War. They had like run into an empty news building and decided that they wanted to, tell the story of what was happening. So that was its first iteration, and then it did have a presence in World War One, but then really it got going as what it is now in World War Two, and it's published continuously since World War Two, and that's the version that we have now, and it's great. It's like our main mission is to make sure that troops sent overseas, have news from home and are connected and know what's going on. Even still today, troops downrange in these really remote places don't have a lot of connection. So we serve as like that daily connection.
Now, before pandemic, were you in a position where you were able to travel abroad with troops? Were you able to do that at all? Or are you pretty much based in DC?
Yeah, so we have Stars and Stripes has several bureaus. So our DC bureau is actually our newer bureau, and there's six reporters in the US, most of us in DC. And we do cover like strictly US, like we have Pentagon reporters. I cover the Department of Veterans Affairs and do some stuff on the Hill, Capitol Hill. And then we have a couple of people in communities with large military presence, like Fort Bragg and then Fort Hood in Texas. We have a couple of reporters there. And we travel domestically for stories, or we did quite a bit before the pandemic. Every couple months, I would be going somewhere in the US. But our bureaus overseas, we had Afghanistan, before it fell apart this summer, we exited. And we have Germany, Japan, South Korea. There's really people all over that report for Stars and Stripes.
I believe it was about a year ago at this time, or maybe September a year ago, because you're funded by the Department of Defense, right?
Yes, we're partially funded. Yeah,
partially funded, and I know that was being talked about last year, that some of that funding might go away. I mean, I guess that was stressful, or is that pretty common to have that?
Yeah, no, that was stressful. So that had happened before, but not as seriously as it was happening. It was last year. So we are partially funded by the DoD, and without that funding, it would be really tough for us to exist. So, we're part of the federal budgeting process. So, every year the executive branch puts out their budget, and then, Congress looks at it and decides what to pass. So we were not, when the executive branch last year put out their budget, they had proposed completely eliminating us, or eliminating our funding, which had not happened before. When it had happened before, they had proposed cutting our funding, but not, completely. So we had to depend on, lobbyists to help us and Congress to put the funding back in, which they did, thankfully. But there were several months there where we really didn't know if we were going to exist, which It's tough. I mean, it's there's always pressure, feeling that pressure in the news industry is always something there, but it was like way more imminent than anything I dealt with before. So yeah, that was a scary time.
Yeah, I bet. Now, as a national reporter, and you've been there 5 years,
Mhm.
are you in a position where you can kind of determine what stories you want to cover, or do you still work with an editor to kind of outline your coverage plans?
Yeah, that's a great thing. You know, I have been covering these issues for about 5 years, and our editors trust us to be the expert on our beats. I love beat reporting as opposed to general assignment and kind of, you know, taking whatever your editor throws at you. There, you know, there's a place and time for that, but I really love being a beat reporter and being the expert because it helps, you know, it helps filter through all the story ideas that are coming at you every day. You know, every day I get hundreds of emails and story tips. And so kind of, you know, knowing what to look out for now is really great. And our editors give us a lot of freedom to dig into things. Like they want the daily stories like any other newspaper, but they also like give us time to really dig into issues or story ideas that we think might, you know, be really big or produce something really cool.
And Nikki, how's that work-life balance in DC? I mean, I know DC is a pretty intense place when it comes to news coverage. I mean, do you find time to do anything outside of work? I know you
Yeah,
have an Airbnb. I think I just saw that on social media. So that's
yeah, it's been really interesting. It's changed during the pandemic for sure. In some ways, it's harder to get away from work because your home is your work. So it's hard to say like I'm going to be done at this time because you're not going anywhere. But yeah, I mean DC is a really cool town, so it's been good to you know, pull yourself away and find that balance. And there are a lot of other journalists here, so sometimes the fun stuff is also work stuff because you're, you know, hanging out with other journalists. But yeah, I think it is important to find that work life balance and find the things that you enjoy. There's a lot to enjoy in the city, so that's been pretty easy.
and when you were developing your skills at the Daily Cans, I mean, was DC was that always kind of a goal of yours to make it to DC, or did that just happen?
No, it wasn't actually, which is kind of funny. Yeah, like I said, I was like totally open-minded about where to go. I was, you know, I grew up in Kansas and, you know, obviously went to KU. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll go anywhere, just, you know, experience something new, learn something new. So I didn't have DC in mind, but I'm glad I did end up here. You know, there are a lot of journalism jobs here, centralized here, which is a good thing and a bad thing. You have a lot of opportunity once you get here to, you know, move around and figure out what you like. But obviously, that can be a negative too. That there's not enough positions in other places in the country. But yeah, I'm very glad that Stars and Stripes took me from Kansas and was like, yeah, come to DC. So that was a lucky break.
And there's another J School alum that works for Stars and Stripes, right? Caitlin, is she with?
Yeah, yeah. Caitlin Dornbos, she and I graduated from KU in the same class
Okay.
from the journalism school, and we worked together at the Lawrence Journal World for a bit. And then she told me, like, I went to Stars and Stripes, and she told me she was interested, so she applied for our Japan bureau, and she went over there and worked there for 3 years, and she just recently took an open job at the Pentagon in DC. So now we're both in DC working together again. We live about 3 blocks away from each other, which is kind of funny. So yeah, that's been really cool to have a friend, you know, going side by side from journalism school to here. So that's been really cool.
And speaking of journalism school, were there any mentors that helped you along the way, or did you kind of create your own breaks, or how does that come about? Just
Yeah, I think mentors are really important, especially in this industry because it is competitive. Like jobs are competitive. So, yeah, you know, Scott Renardi was a great mentor for me. Doug Ward, Carrie Benson, they were all really great. Made me believe in myself and that I should, you know, take chances and go for jobs that I maybe didn't think I could, you know, I would get. So that was great. And then, yeah, you know, I made friends in Arkansas. I haven't worked in Arkansas for 6 years now, but I still have friends, you know, from that time and mentors. And, you know, really being that's probably a big thing that I would advise is, really being open to learning. Even, I've been a full-time reporter out of college for 7 years now. And being open to learning is still a big thing, because people will notice that and, help you and, answer the questions you may have. And then those people will be the people that'll help you get jobs later. Like I had some sources in Arkansas that I worked with who, when I applied for the Stars and Stripes job, they really vouched for me. They were, former colonels in the Air Force, and they really, vouched for, my skills as a journalist, and that helped me get this job at Stars and Stripes. So really, like, leaving a place better than you found it and making those connections is a huge thing.
And you talked about like colonels and those sources. I think it's always important to build that trust with sources, but I would think it's even more important with the beat you cover.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's some, dubiousness in the military community about reporters, and it's really important to get details right. That was one thing I learned really quickly. If you don't, know the jargon, or you get the jargon wrong, or the military equipment, you mislabel it or something. Those little things, they start to add up and lead to them not trusting you as much. So you really have to, like, show your worth, do your research, because those little things, they really do matter to, especially with the military community.
And I know we talked about this briefly. It's a busy week for you. You have a wedding coming up. Everything must be going well. You look calm and composed.
Good. Yeah, I think it's going okay. Yeah, we've been planning for a year and a half. So at this point, we're just ready for it to happen.
So will that be in DC as well?
It's actually just outside of DC, near
Okay.
Shenandoah National Park. My fiance and I spent a lot of the pandemic going hiking and, doing outdoor things, since the city was very shut down during that time. So, yeah, we really love it out there. Got a lot of family driving in from Kansas for it. So they're on the road now.
And you and your fiance, I think I saw on social media, you did open up an Airbnb too, right?
Yeah, that was like our we have so much more time now during the pandemic. We're not spending the 45 minutes each way commuting and things like that, because even though we're in DC, getting metro, walking, it all adds up. So we have a lot more time in our day. So opening this Airbnb was like our pandemic project. It's been really great and successful, and pretty fun, like sharing that natural area with other people. So, and I actually have used a lot of skills from journalism school in that too, just like being a clear communicator and using social media. That's like so, so important and so undervalued, I think, because that's helped a lot. So,
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Nikki, again, I appreciate your time. Do you have anything else to add about just your career in general, or any advice you'd have to students about to enter the workforce?
I don't think so, other than, yeah, just be open to learning, open to going new places. You never know where the path will lead you. But yeah, just be ready, be curious.
Well, Nikki, I don't know if you have your KU mug or
I
glass.
do.
I
I
always
have
have to do a little.
class.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow, that's a big Jayhawk. Well,
Yeah.
again, I appreciate your time, and I think I'll do the virtual cheers there. Cheers to your
All right.
careers, Nikki.
Cheers. Thank you.
Good luck this weekend.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Bye.